Tokenize, the YouTube channel that shows you the faces of blockchain-based real economy. Subscribe and find out how you can be a part of it.
So hi, my name's Ryan Hanley. I'm Managing Director of TokenMarket UK. TokenMarket, we help early stage companies raise growth capital and look to provide via a tokenized security exchange a faster route to liquidity for investors and also founders. So TokenMarket, we've had considerable success working with early stage blockchain companies via the sale of utility tokens. So we've had 31 offerings, over £250 million, $250 million invested in those companies, and a lot of them doing quite well. We've worked with the likes of Civic, with Fetch, with Populous, really smart teams who have built out very interesting protocols or dApps, which are actually being used. So we've got a very, very good track record. We've reached a lot of individual retail consumers. So we have over 170,000 people within our network. We've delivered tokens to over 250,000 individual wallet addresses. And now we're looking at how we can leverage that with the right regulation in place in terms of issuing tokenized securities. So our first real kind of focus on this will be to continue working with these growth capital orientated companies, typically Series A, potential to normally software development to be able to build and scale quickly and globally. And we're helping them to structure their offerings, both from a private placement memorandum point of view, so going out to accredited, sophisticated network sort of investors via our sales network, and then looking to bring them through to a wider, more self-accredited investor type via UK crowdfunding. So this is where we're being regulated by the FCA in the UK, and our sandbox test, the first one will be our own raise, where we tokenize TokenMarket's equity. So very much eating our own food and allowing people to, for the first time, be able to invest in our own company. We're also making very good tracks in terms of how we can allow people to gain liquidity in terms of a secondary market, where we hope to have a full MTF license within Malta for tokenized security exchanges, and then also within Dubai under an AML license. I think there's a few really interesting debates going on at the moment. I think consensus itself has always been a little bit more lending itself towards Web 3.0 and DeFi. These are the kind of terms that are coming out quite a lot. I think you have two camps. One which believes that, Ethereum, smart contracts, an underlying blockchain can change the web as we know it, decentralize the way in which data is stored and do various things around that. I think there's others who maybe think it's a little bit more confined in terms of the initial kind of purposes of smart contracts and how that can help with various different industries. So I think that debate is going on, it's quite strong, and there's some quite opposing groups. I think what always comes out of consensus is that people start to become a little bit more focused and understanding of what is possible in the near and the long-term future. And I think this is something that in the blockchain space we get a little carried away with. We maybe sometimes talk about things which are only possible in 5 to 10 years, whereas sometimes what's really interesting is what can really happen in the next 1 to 2 years. Personally, what I would really love to see is that killer dApp, someone who really hits 500,000, 1 million, 2 million users of something which has an incredibly easy interface, and the users don't really see that they're using blockchain. And I think that's something that as soon as we hit that hurdle, it will really open the floodgates for some much more sort of feasible projects. Yeah. I personally think it's a bit of a false flag. So I think that we sometimes in this industry, we get really pent up on the technical side of how things happen. And sometimes we don't look at the fundamental reasons of why we're actually doing them. And that's what really excites people. If they can understand that by the application of this technology, it will disintermediate, people in the middle who are taking, rent-finding fees. That's what people get interested in, not how that actually happens. I mean, it's one of these things we've seen in other industries. When MySQL databases came out, there's a limited number of people who actually understand why that was such a large thing, but now it just runs in the background and it facilitates these huge big infrastructures which were never once possible sort of 10 years ago. And for me, that's really where I see the narrative having to change. And the only way you can really do that is to allow people to see how this operates, talk more around the benefits rather than the features and the kind of the underlying processes which are happening to get there, and make some really cool stuff that people don't realize that there's a blockchain powering that underneath, that they just realize that, wow, this is more efficient than what I used to have, or this is faster, or this is a lot less costly and gives me greater access. These are the things that people really value, and that will be the thing that really drives on the industry, in my personal opinion. I think it's one of many. I think that we'll see a lot of asset classes which get tokenized. I think it's the one that people are able to understand the most. I mean, if you look at investment portfolios, typically after buying your own house, going into a REIT or a property fund is typically where people will mostly put these kind of investments. So they understand it, they understand the tokenization aspect. Within the US, having the limitation of number of shareholders that can be within a fund, you do need to be able to manage that, and blockchain is a great use case to do so. I think the underlying asset itself, for these things to be successful, has to be of great value to the investor. And this is one area I worry a little bit about the tokenization of certain assets, is where is the value lying? Is the value in allowing access to individuals to get part of something that previously they couldn't? Is it good value for them as an investment opportunity? Or, in some cases, is it an asset that hasn't been able to, or a fund which hasn't been able to go through more traditional routes to be able to be financed, and therefore are looking to go into a more alternative market, package something up in a different way, and then try and sell it to somebody else who maybe isn't as knowledgeable. So hopefully, what we see in terms of some of these offerings will be more of the former rather than the latter. And if we see more of the former, then we can really succeed.
Tokenize, the language of the new blockchain-based financial markets. Can you speak it? Subscribe to Tokenize and let's find out together.